All right, we're about to take a journey to a place that almost feels like it's from another time. We're going to the Tunisian island of Djerba, which is home to one of the most ancient Jewish communities in the entire world. We're going to dive into a world of incredible traditions, deep-seated fears, and the kinds of memories that stick with you forever, all through the eyes of someone who lived it. You know, everything really starts with a feeling, right? With a memory. Think about being a kid at some huge festival. You don't really remember the history or the specific reason for it, do you? No. What you remember is the noise, the energy, the pure joy, and, of course, the taste of the sweets. That feeling, right there, is where our story kicks off. And right there, that one simple, sweet memory, it just cracks open this whole other world, doesn't it? What was this festival that left such a huge impression? And what was life really like for this ancient community, trying to navigate tradition and modernity on this one tiny island? So, to really get this, we have to see it all through the eyes of a child who was growing up there in the middle of the 20th century. Because this isn't just a history lesson, not at all. It's a window into a real, lived experience from a world that, for the most part, has completely vanished. So, our story unfolds on Djerba. Now, the Jewish community there goes back, well, not just centuries, but maybe even thousands of years. The spiritual heart of the island is the El Khiba synagogue, and local tradition says it dates all the way back to the destruction of the first temple. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. This isn't just an old community. It is truly ancient. Which leads us right back to the heart of that memory, the annual pilgrimage for the holiday of Lag BaOmer, which is known as the Hilula. I'm telling you, this was such a huge deal that it would draw people from all over the world to this one little spot. So what even is a halula? Well, the word itself is Aramaic, and it just means festivity, a celebration. And in this case, it was a pilgrimage, but a really joyous one. It was a time for absolutely everyone to come together at this sacred place to pray, to celebrate, and just reconnect with their deepest roots. So how did it all go down? Okay, so picture this. First, the pilgrims start showing up, and it creates this atmosphere of a massive, super joyful family reunion. Then you had these really unique local traditions, like this fascinating egg ceremony we're going to talk about in a sec. The big highlight was a huge procession, and that was followed by a whole night of singing and prayer. And the key thing to get here is that this wasn't some performance for an audience. No way. Everybody was in it, singing, clapping, being a part of the whole experience. You know, this egg ceremony, it's really something else. Women would literally write their deepest hopes and prayers right onto hard-boiled eggs. You know, wishes for a good marriage, for their job, for health, for their kids. And then they'd place these eggs in this little special nook inside the synagogue. It's just such a beautiful, physical way of praying, turning something so simple into this powerful vessel for hope. Okay, so you have this massive, incredible festival once a year. But what about the other 364 days? How did that fit into everyday life? Well, for our narrator, childhood was all about living between two totally different worlds that were somehow existing side by side. I mean, just look at this contrast. It's like living with a foot in two different centuries at the same time. At home, life was deeply traditional. You had religious observance, ancient prayers, the super tight-knit community in the Jewish quarter, the Al-Kecha. But the second you stepped outside that world, you were in a modern one with European clothes, speaking French, and all the hustle and bustle of a commercial town. And, you know, the food tells its own incredible story. Life wasn't dictated by technology. It was dictated by nature. There was no refrigeration, so fish was eaten the very same day it was caught. Meat, that was a huge luxury, maybe twice a year. Traditions like fushisha, this special grain mix that marked the seasons. It was just a simple, natural, and really healthy way of life that had been passed down for centuries. But, you know, behind all this beautiful, vibrant life, there was something else, a darker layer to this childhood memory. Because just under the surface, there was this fragile reality, a kind of quiet hum of tension that was just always there. The narrator's father, a man called Miro, was a big deal on the island, a powerful, respected guy. And that reputation, it acted like a kind of protective shield for his family. So that phrase you see here, "these are Miro's children," that wasn't just identifying them. That was a warning. It was a clear sign of the power he had. But here's the thing. The father, he wasn't fooled for a second. He knew exactly what that respect was built on: It was built on his strength, his influence, not on real affection. And he knew deep down that any respect that comes from fear is brittle. It can shatter in an instant. And that's why, while life was going on, while his kids were just being kids, playing outside, he was secretly turning their home into a fortress. He designed his own hidden defenses, preparing for the absolute worst-case scenario, a violent attack, a pogrom. This wasn't just him being paranoid. This was a stone-cold practical response to a very real threat he felt every single day. Eventually, as things got more and more tense in the region, he knew. He just knew. The writing was on the wall. The life they had built, this delicate balance they had, it just couldn't last. And so he made this enormous decision. It was time to go. And the way they left, it was dramatic. We're talking secret, middle-of-the-night stuff. One night, without a word to anyone, he put his entire family of 8 onto a cart, and they left the island for good. In that one moment, they left everything behind. Their home, their business, their status, all their friends. And that ancient prayer, next year in Jerusalem, which for generations had been this kind of distant symbolic hope, was suddenly becoming their immediate, terrifying reality. And this is the part that really gets me. Looking back years later, the narrator had this profound realization. What they lost, it was stuff. A house, a business. But what they carried with them, that was the stuff you can't touch. And it was so much more valuable. Their traditions, their family, their memories, their resilience. That was their real wealth, the culture they carried inside of them. You know, this story is so specific to one family from one tiny island, but it leaves all of us with this huge, universal question. When life forces you to leave a place behind, what are the truly essential things that you take with you? It kind of suggests that maybe what home really isn't a spot on the map. Maybe it's the memories, the culture, and the love that we carry forward no matter where we end up.